Assalamualaikum. Inshallah, everybody's doing well. Everybody came back from the weekend healthy and inshallah ready to go. I wanted to talk about the Super Bowl. So, not exactly just the Super Bowl, but kind of the Super Bowl and Allah. Somehow I'm gonna try to connect them two because I was thinking of something last night, and then on my way here I was thinking of something as well. So. Um, when people are watching the Super Bowl or any kind of large sporting event, or really anything that they're really passionate about, maybe it's related to politics, maybe it's related to sports, maybe it's related to something else, a lot of times emotion gets involved, right? And, there's probably many people who are happy today, many people who are sad today. For the Muslim, though, there's nothing wrong with enjoying sports. There's nothing wrong with having a favorite team. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. But we, as Muslims, just have to be very measured. We have to be very kind of practical in the way that we enjoy sports and the way that we enjoy other things. And what I mean by that is that we shouldn't be swayed, extremely one way or extreme another way because of a lot of the things that we experience in the world. We can feel some emotion, of course. You're only human if you feel some emotion, but to feel like extreme happiness and extreme sadness over some of the things is kind of an issue. So if we look at the Super Bowl, for example, I'll try to make my point. The Super Bowl is like it's a huge event. It's actually it's become one of the biggest business events in the country. And so it has many, many, many layers on it. And sometimes when things have so many layers, it builds up that much emotion as well. We had it with the elections. It was like 3 years of like campaigning to eventually you had all this layer of emotion where you had people happy, people sad, and all of that. Super Bowl is kind of like that, where you have all these layers of things. So you have, the stadium with 60, 80,000 screaming, cheering people. You have the commercials, which is, people pay like $2 million for 30 seconds of a commercial. You have obviously all of the millions of people watching on television. You have the lights and the sound, and then you have the players and the helmets and the teams and running back and forth. You have all of those things, but if you remove those things one by one, you're left with something very, very basic, right? If you remove the stadium, all of the people watching, if you remove all of the people watching on television, if you remove all of the money involved with the Super Bowl and all the advertisements, if you remove all of the the pads and all of that stuff, you have people playing a game, right? There's like just human beings picking up a ball and going back and forth, right? If you remove all of that, right, that's all that it really is, right? Yes or no, right?
Yeah.
It's human beings playing a game. They're playing a game, right? And so when you get down to that basic level, remove a lot of the emotion from the whole thing, because all of that stuff is built on because they want you to be emotionally involved with this thing, right? And so just the best thing you can do is to try to remove all of those layers, and then you put it in perspective that at the end of the day it's just a bunch of humans throwing a ball around playing a game. And then you don't have to be so emotional, like so happy that your team won or so sad that your team lost, right? So a lot of the things in life are kind of like that. But the one thing that is not is Allah. And so that's where if you compare Allah to any of these things, there's no comparison. There's no layers to Allah that you can remove one by one, right? This is like the basics of your religion, of your deen, is the shahada, right? And you have in there the first part of it, La ilaha illallah, that there is no God but Allah. And it means a lot more than that as well. But one of the attributes of Allah is that He's just singular, He's one, right? So there's no layers, right? That you can remove this, or multiple gods, that you can remove these gods here, and be left with one God. There's just Allah. There's no beginning to Allah, there's no end to Allah. There's nothing you can break down. Allah is the only thing in the world that is singular, that's just alone, self-subsistent, reliant. There's nothing that you can remove. But everything other than Allah is all of our entertainment, all of our politics, all of our even all of creation. Even if you look at the human being, right? You have all of these different parts for the human being. You have the hair, you have the eyes, you have the ears, you have the limbs, you have the nails, you have the skin, you have the organs, you have all of that. Then you have the thing that Allah created first, the soul. But you have all these things on top that you can break everything down. You can break everything down except Allah. And so sometimes where you see people and where you see yourself really emotionally involved, try to take a pause and say, is it worth all of this emotion? Is it worth all of this time? Is it worth all of this attention? Right? You especially the older students should be mindful of that. Enjoy those things, but have perspective. Don't let them sweep you away. Don't let them carry you away. Right? Break things down. All of this emotion that I'm feeling, whether it's happiness or sadness or anger, all of this emotion that I'm feeling, is it worth it? Is it real? Is it necessary? And then the way you can do that is just break it down. Break it down. And then at the end, if you find out it's just a bunch of people playing with a ball, then you realize, man, I don't need to be so emotional. Or the same thing with politics, or the same thing with whatever else you may be going through in life. If you're very emotional about it, very anxious about it, very stressed about it, very angry about it, then try your best to take a minute to break things down. And then you realize that they're really, really insignificant. Allah described or in our deen, it's described like the world is like the weight of the wing of a gnat. A gnat was like not even a mosquito. It's like those tiny, tiny things. So this stuff is worth very little, in terms of in relation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, and then the best thing and the final thing that I'll remind you all about, especially the older students and then your parents really, is that they're the ones who have to lead by example. Right? So if the younger kids in our community see the older students and then the adults getting so happy and so excited and so sad and so angry about a game, a ball, right? Because all they know is to play with a ball in the yard. But if they start to see you all, the older students, and then their parents get so emotionally involved with this thing, it messes with them. They just want to have fun. They just want to play a game. There's no reason. Sometimes you see, when they show it on television, the Super Bowl or the NBA Finals or the hockey championship, whatever, and then they'll show a kid in the audience crying or something like that. It's so sad to me, that this kid has gotten so emotionally involved that he's brokenhearted because his team lost. It's okay to be a little bit upset, but to be at the point where you're brokenhearted and the kid is crying, he's learning that from his dad. He's learning that from his older brother. He's learning that from somewhere, because there's no way that in a normal situation a kid would be so emotionally devastated from a ball landing in the wrong place. It really doesn't make sense. So, and I'm saying this not because I'm some expert or anything like that. I used to be just as emotionally involved, and to be quite frank with you, last night I turned off the game before the end. And I'll tell you why. Because I said, why am I getting emotionally involved in this game? I didn't like it, And then I see New England coming back and Atlanta was winning, and I just didn't want to be involved emotionally in the game, so I just turned it off and went to bed. I said, this is silly, But that's because of my youth. Because in my youth, I was a hardcore fan of all these things, the Miami Hurricanes, Dolphins, the Heat, all of that. I enjoyed it, but now as an adult, I still want to enjoy those things, and I still play those sports, but I don't want my emotions to, be so involved. I'd rather my emotions be involved with the things that are important, like my kids, my family, my parents, my community, this project at Salat, and then of course Allah and the Prophet ﷺ. I'd rather my emotions be, used for those things. And maybe it's me just getting older. I don't have that much emotion to share, but I just don't want to be, taken for a ride, on those things. So enjoy those things, but have perspective. Don't let them take you on like a roller coaster of emotion, up and down, up and down. Use your emotions and your intent, all of those things, and they're good things, to be happy and sad and to be angry. At times they're okay, but to use them for the right purposes, not because a ball didn't go in the hoop or didn't go in the hoop. Use them for things that are important. The Prophet ﷺ had those emotions, but he never used them like haphazardly. It wasn't just for like sports or something silly like that. It was usually for something very important. They were connected to human beings, and they were connected to Allah. So these are some of the thoughts that I had with regards to the Super Bowl, because I figured some of the students would come in today happy, some of the students come in sad, and I didn't want that. I wanted you guys to just kind of come in and just, it was a game that was played and it happened, and you move on, inshallah, to the real things in your life, which is your education, your friendships, your teachers, those connections that you have, the responsibilities that you have academically and spiritually. Those are the places where you need to invest a lot of your time and emotion.